Hey, everybody. So glad to have you here. We are with Iva Pace. So she has just written her book. We are relaunching it, got some changes in there, really great. My name is Star. So I own Aligning Purpose Publishing, and we are going to talk with her today. So welcome, Iva. So glad you're here.
Glad to be here.
So your book, The Confessions of a Sanctified Lady. There's a couple things that I really, really enjoyed about your book. Many things. It was a great read. I loved how you talked like very openly, authentically about the struggles that you have gone through, right? And sometimes, we make choices that lead to consequences. And so you were just open about that, which I think is really great. And you were able to share the learning perspective on it, right? And how you learn to like forgive yourself and like move forward and not just like sit in that. I also loved how just like a quick read it was. It's that perfect layover book. And those are always my favorite, right? You get to the airport a little bit early. Maybe you have a connecting flight, you can easily finish it. And then I also really loved how your book has reflection questions to invite the reader in on the healing process. And then you also open it up in prayer. And I think that was really amazing. So I'd love to hear about you and how you sort of started this writing, how you put it together, and yeah, your journey on writing the book.
Man, so I think God was definitely in it from the beginning. I always knew that I wanted to write a book, just didn't know when. I had started writing this book several years ago, and I just kind of put it on hold. And a lot of times as Christians, we're afraid to tell our stories,
Mm,
and those things become something that's hidden. We learn to wear a mask. We learn to look real sanctified. That's why I purposely use the term sanctified ladies. The confession of a sanctified lady, because just because we're saved, sanctified, it just simply means set apart.
mm,
That's and so, but we were stigmatized for having that name as a kid, but I learned to appreciate that name as an adult.
yeah.
And but even though I received Christ, there was things in my life that I still needed to heal from. There was things that still was yet to happen. That is just part of the journey. So a lot of times when we give our lives to the Lord, we think that's it. It's going to be all roses and peaches and cream and all just goody goody. Now, God is good. We have tasted and seen that the Lord is good. However, life still happens. Life still has its ups, its downs, its toils, its turns. But because we have Christ, we're able to endure those things. So that was why I wrote the book. I thought it was so important that people, just people like you and I and our sisters, just all around, that we can be just open. We can be transparent. We can be vulnerable. We don't have to hide those things that, as we see, most of us have already gone through
Mm,
or in the process of it now. And
mhm,
so I'm just that voice for the one who's like, man, this is what happened. I'm afraid. I'm ashamed. You
mhm.
know, it's what is there to be ashamed? When we look at it, who can point the finger at anybody? We're all on this journey together. We're all
Right.
going to the same destinations. Sometimes we may veer off on the dead end, have to get back on the right path,
Mm,
but nevertheless, we all going to end in the same space. That's what our goal is. And so we're going to be helpers one to another. It's important that we, share our stories. Our voice is important. The things that I've gone through, I've met so many other women that have gone through or in that same space. Well, I'm providing that hope.
yeah.
You don't have to remain in this place, but at the same time, just because you've given your life to God does not mean that trials are not going to come. It does not
Right.
mean that you're going to have some struggles in some areas of your life. And
Mm,
so when we put the mic down, you know,
yeah.
leave out of those four walls, which we call the church, life
Hmm.
is still going to happen. Now,
Right.
how do you deal with those things behind your closed doors? You know,
Mm,
and so that is the purpose. I just wanted people to just get a new perspective on Christianity.
yeah. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, we put it, I mean, it's like we put a great facade. It's just, we've just chosen someone to walk this path with us. You
Hmm.
know, it doesn't mean that we're perfect,
Hmm.
but our heart is perfect. Our heart is pure to our God. We want more of Him. And so we're striving daily. The Bible tells us we die daily. This is a
Right.
daily walk. We
Right.
don't just give our life to the Lord and we don't arrive, right?
Right,
I'm
right, right.
still struggling in areas. Are there still things that I yet to overcome? But at the same time, there are people that are coming along this path, and the things that I've already overcome, I can help them to get to where I am. You know,
Right.
so I'm so grateful that God enabled me to write this book, to share my story unapologetically. Um,
Yes.
there was a time that I was very ashamed. As you
Mhm.
was reading, there's some things that I was ashamed of. Not anymore. I'm like, child, huh, that was just part of
Yes.
my journey, honey. That was not
Yes.
my story.
Right.
And God is creating me a new story. I'm
Yes.
gonna write another book, so that just takes you up to this point in my life. But God is yet to do so much more great stuff, honey. I'm
Yeah.
just excited about this path I'm on. Yeah,
Oh, I
yes.
love it. I love it. So you had brought something up, just sharing about, the church and Christianity. And that brings me to something that you had really talked about in your book that I feel like a lot of people really struggle with is that church hurt,
Mm,
right? Where we might come in with that shame, and instead of then being met with love, we're met with like condemnation, right? So can you just talk about your journey with that?
whoo-wee. I feel like if you can survive the church, I believe Paul said that even in scripture, it was my own people. If it was a stranger, it would be different. But because it was people that I knew, people that I loved, people that I confided in, those are the ones that hurt me most. But you know what? I've learned something too. They're human. We're all in the church. It doesn't mean that we're perfect people. A lot of people get hurt at church and they leave the church. Well, you wasn't perfect. I wasn't perfect when I joined the church either. But nevertheless, those things do happen. I think as Christians, we have to learn to, first of all, not forget where we come from.
Right.
Right. So
Mhm.
we think we just been washing oil in holy oil, honey. We dripped down in holy oil, and we don't, our stuff don't stink anymore. But it's like, no, God, He saved us from something.
Mm.
He said about us, such were some of you. So you ain't exempt. But it's, for some reason, I have learned that in the church world, that is what happens. They look at the person that hasn't quite arrived where they are and they condemn. You
Mm.
know, they already passed judgment. I came to church, I was saved, but I had 4 kids and I didn't have a husband. Oh, I was the whore of the church, right?
Mm.
Like, girl.
Right, right,
But
right.
it happens. But I'm like,
Yeah.
we have to change the percent. If we're planning on winning souls for the kingdom,
Yeah.
we say
Mm.
that we're kingdom, we want to win souls for the kingdom. Well, then we have to really lay aside that spirit of condemnation that we put on other people,
Right.
as a church world, because people now, I think my call is the ones outside of the four walls, because I can understand the devastation of when you're there. Now, I've never was a type that wanted to commit suicide. I have
Mm.
been in a low place, but I did want God to take me home. So it was the same thing. I was just waiting for to do it myself. But I was just like, I woke up and I'm like, wow, God, like I'm still here. Like I thought you were supposed to take me home. So I experienced, that lowliness, that's place of like no return,
Right.
because of being hurt in the church, because of
Mm.
people, people, flawed people.
Mhm.
And I learned hurt people are hurt. They hurt people. When you're hurt and when you're flawed and when you have issues, you reach out and you do the same because you haven't allowed healing to take place in your life. Now, this is a place I had to grow to. I wasn't there yet. I didn't understand why are they coming from me. But when you're marked by God, honey, let me tell you, people are going to come for you. They don't
Right.
understand your journey. God has placed something spectacular on you. You walk in a building, they're going to automatically notice something different about you, and some will appreciate it and some will, they will hate it.
Yeah.
And so these are things that we just have to expect, because guess what? None of us are perfect. You
Mhm.
know, they're in the church, they may be serving, but baby, they in there for a reason.
Right.
If they were already arrived, they would be with the king already. But we all on this earth still trying to make it. And so I say, don't allow yourself to stop going to church, because
Mm.
we go to serve him, and we're just people coming together with the same mind, supposedly, and we're all trying to get something from the Lord. And He uses that pastor. Not that the pastor is greater than you, but He
Right.
uses him in that capacity to bring His word. But yeah, church hurt is it's a real thing. Young people now, we can't be hypocritical. We can't be so quick to um shout, pray, praise God, preach the heavens down, and then go home and act like a pure devil. So because people are watching, people are watching you in the
Yeah.
stores. You don't know. So you have to let your light shine in the church, outside of the
Hmm.
church. And I feel like when we get close to God, when we really fall in love with Jesus, He changes the very things that are discomfortable, that's not comfortable for us. He changes us from the inside out, right?
Mm.
He deals with those things that are not so cute, but He deals with us in a quiet and a secret place because He loves us that much. He does not
Right.
bring us out into the forefront and just, things that happened to me. I was brought to the public,
Mm.
and ridiculed in front of many, many people. I literally want to go home and die. And I
Yeah.
was like, why me, God? Why do they hate me so much? Like, what have I done? I just
Mm.
want to serve you. But the devil will use any and everything he can to disrupt your walk, to disrupt
Right.
your destiny. So you have to know that, and don't allow people, flawed people, to cause you to miss out, on the blessings that God have for you. So yeah, but church is definitely a real thing. It's happening now. And God is, you know what? He's getting tired of it. He's going to get the
Yeah.
leaders. He's going to get the leaders for
Hmm.
for bringing that, bringing that division, bring it, or even allowing it.
Right.
He's tired because He loves us as a whole. He's not
Totally.
when any of us perish. And so if you're the cause of somebody perishing, I
Mm.
I pray for you.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
good. That's good. And I do know that that is a struggle that, I have been through, and I know for sure that's a struggle that, many people have been through. And so it's just really powerful to hear from you, who is like, I have experienced that, but my love for God is not necessarily the church itself, right? It's deeper. And so you keep, you didn't let that just deter you, which I think is really awesome. And that leads me to the next thing, where I really liked about your book, how you were talking about the perspective where you also kind of brought sort of like, well, I guess you had learned right from the beginning, and myself too, and I feel like many others
Mhm.
learned of God's like judgment and wrath, right? Versus his love and forgiveness and compassion. And then you go into your book, and you're saying, because that brought you where you were constantly chasing love, right? Constantly trying to find it. And then you got to a place where you were able to stop chasing, and really found love. So can you share more about that?
Yes. So, yeah, I talked about my relationships, my marriages, and just even before marriage, I was a person that always looked for love. I just wanted love. Just never felt it. Grew up in a large family, so I was the middle child. They was trying to spread their little love with everybody, and some of us are just more needy in those areas. And I just happened to be one of those children. I wanted it. I didn't feel it, and I just searched for it, but I searched for it in the wrong places because I was broken,
Mm.
And growing up Pentecostal, we love Pentecostal, love y'all. I ain't got nothing against, that's my foundation. No, nevertheless, everything was preached hellfire and brimstone. Okay.
Right.
If you look crazy, you're going to hell. If you dress crazy, you're going to hell. You talk crazy. We lived in the church house. So that is what I grew up. That was my foundation. Although I appreciate a lot of the teachings, some of it
Mm.
was just a little bit overboard for me, as I look back. But they did what they felt was right at the time. So I applied grace to that situation.
Mm.
But growing up in there, I didn't realize the effect that it had on me as an adult.
Mm.
To the point that if I did fall, if I did make a mistake, I felt that God didn't love me. I felt that my life was over. I felt that there
Mm.
was no coming back from those things. There was no recovery, right?
Mm.
So only it was up to the point where I was in my second marriage, and I failed, and tried to cover it up by marrying the person, and he wasn't for me. And
Mm.
I beat myself up. I was like, my life is over. Whatever happens to me is what I deserve. These
Mm.
are the things that I told myself. And it was in that moment, in that something, when we give up on ourselves, we have to understand God is never giving up on us.
Right.
And at the moment I was a mentor, a minister, head over praise and worship. And Iva, I failed. Iva failed.
Mm.
It's funny for me to say that because I would rather die than allow anybody to know that I messed up.
Right.
I messed up. But it was in that very moment I moved from my city. I moved to a city that I ain't know nobody.
Mm,
Nobody. Brought my children with me, my two girls, one of my sons had graduated. No, two had graduated. And I was like, we're gone. They didn't understand why, but I felt so condemned, because I didn't feel like I could come back from that. I feel like God was so displeased with me that I let him down. And
mm,
that is a good place that we never want to let God down, but at the same time, his love is so much more powerful than what we can imagine, because it
right.
was that moment of my lowest place that
Mm,
he came and showed me his love,
right.
his unconditional love
Mm,
for me, you
yeah.
know. And it was so easy for me to tell the next person, God loves you, God
Right.
loves you. But it was hard for me to receive that love for myself.
Mm,
And when I got to the place where I felt his love, no longer was I condemned. And I was like, you mean to tell me I didn't even have to get in this marriage? You mean to tell me all I had to do was ask God to forgive me?
right.
You know, and who am I to put my pride in the place of him loving me? I'm not going
Mm,
to I'm not going to ask for forgiveness because I don't think he's going to forgive me. Like,
right.
really? But I allowed myself to go through so much unnecessary pain because I didn't understand his love. But
Mm,
it was in that moment that he poured his love on me,
yes.
poured it on me.
Yeah.
And from that moment, I just have a whole new perspective. You know, it ain't nothing like his love.
Right.
Nothing is compared to it. Nothing. And just the fact that it's unconditional. You
Right.
know, it's like if our children can do something crazy bad, we're gonna always love them. Well, how much more is God's love toward us? We can do some crazy stuff,
Right. Right. Right.
but it doesn't change his love for us.
Mm-hmm.
Wipe us off, you know.
Yeah.
He those little broken pieces, knows how to put those broken pieces back together, you know,
Mm-hmm.
because he loved us like that. So I had, that was a whole new learning for me. I'm like, you mean to tell me I had to wait till I was in my 40s? God love me. Oh, girl, I could have been so much farther by now.
Yeah,
But it
but
took
you
that.
are.
Yeah,
Yeah.
to God be the glory. But I had to
Mm-hmm.
go through that process because how many of us are out there now thinking we've done so bad,
Right.
oh God, I know he's not gonna forgive this. That very thing that you're saying, oh, I know he's not gonna forgive, that is the very thing that he forgives you for, and he picks you up, and he just wraps his love around you. That is like who wouldn't want to serve a God like that? Who
Right.
wouldn't want to please a God like that? And so that just drew me to just want to love him more, want to
Right.
love people, and it also taught me, like, can nobody tell me anything back that's gonna make me say, woo, child. I'm like, girl,
Mm.
come here. I want to get some of this love, girl. And so that's why I feel like God has placed me here to just love people right where they are. There's nothing that you can do that's gonna make me frown, or because it doesn't make God frown. He didn't frown
Right.
with a whole lot of things we done before Christ, after Christ, all that, you
Yeah.
know. And he's still for us. He still loves us so much. He just wants us to do right, just do better. He's like, I got you though. I'm gonna
Right.
help you. I'm gonna help you get to the next level. So yeah, his love is just it's unexplainable. It's
Yeah.
unexplainable. Yeah.
And I want to touch on a couple things that you had said because I think it was just so powerful. And I also know in your book you had declared that you're going to be a preacher. And just listening to you talk, I'm like, yes, So one thing you had said was you didn't want to fall, right? You almost it sounded like you almost wanted to hide it, to avoid it, to like disconnect from the fall, right? And then you had said something that like you might have been further along if you hadn't. But now finishing your book, right? And you're in this great marriage, and I've met both you and your husband, and I love you guys, and just like the dream. And so I think like by what I'm gaining from what you're saying is, by admitting fault, right? That allows then God to come in and move versus like trying to detach from it, and you still receive the blessings, right? You
No.
could
Yeah.
be just, I would believe that you are just where you're supposed to be. And so I think that that's a testimony for other people and myself, to not hide things,
Right.
And to just come in the light with it and say, yeah, I made a mistake here. I did something wrong here. I, chose a path that other people laid out for me, but it wasn't right for me. And now I'm turning and I'm going and following after God, and then still receiving those benefits, even in your 40s, right? So you're never too late.
Never
So I think
too.
that's powerful.
Thank
Um, and then the next thing I wanted to chat with you about is you were talking about, which leads into the next thing. So you were talking about, pretending, playing pretend, right? And then like refusing to let other people in, which could have been from all those other hurts and all those other like hidings of things, right? And so can you touch on that a little bit?
Yeah. I think as humans, we all have that feeling of we want to protect ourselves, we protect our hearts. And if anyone has ever taken advantage of that, you really tend to cover that part of you up. In the church world, I think it's even more so because we're looked at as perfect beings,
Mm,
and that's why I just want to shed the light. Like we're just human, like
100%.
everybody else. Like we just have an advocate, like we got somebody we can go to. But I've learned that and I think that's why they condemn too, because they just haven't really dealt with the issues that they have inside. So
Mm,
that we know how to dress up,
mm,
we know how to look saved, we know what to say, we have the right shout. We just know what to do. But it's like what's going on the inside of you?
yeah.
What's really taking place there. And God just allowed me to look around and just see the different women. And I was like, oh, I could see the brokenness.
Mm,
Some were smiling and I could see the brokenness. Some were just not, they were done. They didn't even bypass that. They ain't even smiling no more, right? They're just like, honey, I'm just good to be alive.
yeah.
It's just, but I feel like when we allow ourselves to open up, and share those faults, we cannot be afraid of what other people would think of us.
Mm,
Because it's that if God be for you,
right.
you know, who can be against you?
Right.
If God be for you. So we have to learn to be okay with the things that you've gone through because it doesn't define you.
Right.
It's just part of your journey.
Hmm.
But as Christians, I see it, and I still see it. Unfortunately, I see it today. It's the how are you doing? Blessed and highly favored. Okay, well, I'm glad, but how you really doing?
Yeah.
That's the everything is so sanctimonious though, but it's like could you just be yourself.
Mm,
Just remove the mask. You
hmm.
know, we've gotten so comfortable. We would freak people out if they saw our true selves. You done covered yourself up so long, you
Right.
might not even recognize you. You take your mask off, but just take your mask off. It's okay to be you. It's
Hmm.
okay to have these things that have happened to you in your past. It didn't kill you.
Right.
You're still here,
Right.
and the things that you're ashamed of, fix it.
Right.
You
That's
know.
good.
So I talked briefly about that, about removing the mask. I just think that it's important for us, especially when we are wanting relationships.
Yeah.
We want relationships, but
Hmm.
people can also pick up on fakeness. They know when you're hiding something. It's just that human intuition that we have. Like,
Hmm.
you're like, something ain't right. They could be smiling, oh, but because they see something deeper. But I promise you, if you just come out that way, just open yourself up to people. There are people just like you. They want to be loved. They want friendships. They want
Right.
relationships.
Right.
Um, we're all this is just part of our human nature. We all are wanting the same things, but because we've been hurt or something, we start backing up. We start covering those areas up. Oh, that hurts. I'm going to cover that up. I don't want anybody to judge me, so I don't want them to see this part of me. It's too
Mm,
painful for me to deal with, so I know they're not going to understand it. So
right.
we tend to walk around, all of us, just wearing masks.
Mm,
And it's just a good old Halloween party, honey, because nobody's faces are showing. Nobody's.
right.
But God is he's bringing up a people that's real,
Yeah.
that's gonna be vulnerable and transparent. It's like it is what it is.
Right.
God is a strong deliverer. God is a way maker. So you don't have to be bound by those things. You don't have to be broke, busted, and disgusted.
Mm,
Like, you just be who you are and let God do the worst. Let God do the rest. Because if you're hiding something, we will never know. God knows. He's just waiting for you to be
Right.
honest and open up. He's
Right.
like, I'm waiting on you. As soon as the real person show up, I'm ready.
Right.
This is, honey, they done turned to three different people. I'm yet for them to come meet me where they are, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And I think when people just allow themselves to be open with God first, and
Mm,
then he does the healing, you
right.
know. So yeah, remove those masks so love, true love can come, and genuine people. Because if you're fake and then you mad at somebody else who you found out was fake, well, you was fake too because you've been wearing your
Right.
mask the whole time.
Right. 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 Right.
Black on the black.
Right. Right. And I think too, like sometimes it might feel easier, right, to just kind of like wear that mask and push people out.
Yeah,
Um, but it's like, what I'm gaining from your book, what you're saying is, when you let God do that healing, when you do remove that mask, then you're able to, let real love in
that's right.
versus letting in love that's going to continue to hurt you.
Yeah, that's
So,
right.
yeah,
That's
that's
right.
powerful. And then going into trusting the process, you have a chapter on that, and I think
Mm,
that's powerful, and that's a challenge, right? So,
mm.
talk to us about trusting the process.
I think we have to first understand. I love the scripture of Jeremiah, when God tells him, like, I knew you, before you were formed in your mother's womb. I knew you, and I called you to be great. And he says the same thing about you. He says the same thing about me, you know, but when life goes a little differently than the way you thought it should, you tend to feel that God has given up on you, you know. And so for me, I grew up singing as a kid. I was very athletic. I was very involved. And so people just knew that I would be so successful. But that wasn't the way the beginning started for me, you
Mm,
know? And so many mishaps. I was pregnant in high school. I did go to college, but I got pregnant again,
mm,
right? And so people in their natural eye would be like, you know, she's not gonna do nothing. She's
mm,
gonna be a statistic,
mm,
you know. And I hated myself. Oh my God. I live in such a depressed state. I was just telling my mother that yesterday. I went down to visit and I was like, Mom, I used to be one of those couches had my name on it. Like I would just go and lay on the couch, like would not move from that couch.
mm,
That just shows you such that lowliness that I was feeling in that moment. I was so depressed, so
mm,
low, and in a hopeless situation, you know. But how, and that's why the scripture of Romans 8:28, that's my favorite scripture. And I put that in every page of the journal because
mm.
I'm like, all things
Right.
work together for good if you
Yeah.
love the Lord and you know that you're called according to his purpose.
Mm,
So even though I was in a horrible state, I was running from love to love, just bad relationships, which made me even more broken. And I go out again and I'm broken even more. Now I got children coming. I have no job. I'm like, what on earth has my life come to? People are looking at me now like they gave up on me.
mm,
That's basically what it was. They gave up on me. They were talking about me. They
mhm,
smiled in my face, but they definitely was having a whole lot of conversations about Iva.
mm,
But just in those moments though, when I chose to give my life to the Lord, and I look back now and I see how all of those things work together for my good.
right.
It made me who I am
Right.
today. I could have been the most obnoxious honey, especially when I grew up. And at first, I grew up not thinking that I was, attractive or anything because I was a chocolate girl, and that's just not what people liked it. But when I grew
Mm,
up and actually started thinking that I was cute,
mm,
I would have been a mess.
mm,
And not having children, my life would have gone a whole different way. But I look at the hand of God and I look at how he was still there for me. He was wooing me the entire time. He was still wooing me. So that's why I say it doesn't matter what your life is looking like right now.
Right.
God has a purpose and a plan. It's important that we trust the process,
Mm,
especially when you're going through those valleys. Like it seems like, okay, is this going to end? And when you say, is this going to end? Or you still have a ways to go. You just like, okay, I just throw my hands up at this point. But God is like, I'm working something out. I'm
right.
working something that your natural eye can't see. I'm working out something that you're not even feeling, that you're not even connected to right now, because I'm working behind the scenes, things that you don't
Mm,
even understand. Because I see up the road. You're looking at the now, but I see 10 years from now. I see 20 years from now. Baby, your life don't even look like what you've been in. But when
mm,
you're you
right.
know, in it, it seems hopeless.
Right.
So, just from a person, I'm just speaking from experience only. I only talk from the things that I've gone through because I can't help anybody with nothing I ain't been through, right? So,
Yep.
I done been through it. I can tell somebody with boldness, like, trust the process. God is not giving up on you. You know,
Mm,
those things that He planned, like He told Jeremiah, I knew, and the thought that I have towards you, like it's to give you that expected it. It's to give you a great ending. It's
mm,
not for you to be walking in despair and knowing that your life is over. No,
right.
the things that I've prepared for you are great things, something that you
Mm,
can look forward to. It's going to give you that expected end, you know,
yeah.
just because it's looking crazy right now. It has nothing to do with where you're going. So
Yeah.
when you
Wow.
look back over your life, I look back over my life and I'm like, wow, wow, God,
Right.
like you really never gave up on me.
Right. Right. Right.
You really had me in the palm of your hand the entire time.
Right.
Even when I turned my back on you,
Mm,
you were still holding me in the palm of your hand. You
yeah.
still I got a plan for Iva. And so now, whereas I would be singing R&B, I write about the Lord.
Mm,
I write about his goodness and his kindness. I write about my experiences that it may bring someone else hope. So yeah, you have to trust the process and
yeah.
know if God called you to it, He's gonna call you through it.
Right.
You're gonna be all right. You're gonna be all right.
Yeah, that's powerful. I also know, like, for myself, I can definitely get stuck in the right now, and wanting have all these desires in my heart, right? And being like, well, if I don't have them right now, then I never will, like that story we can tell
Never gonna do
ourselves. Yeah. And I loved reading that chapter in your book, and just even like listening to you here, just that inspiration of like, because I can even like turn around and see, my past life, and how God continued to show up every step of the way. And then thinking now about like my future, right? And how, why would He leave me right now? Right.
exactly.
So that's
Exactly.
that's just like a powerful message. I love that you put that in your book. And then a couple more things. So you'd also talked about the importance of forgiving yourself, right? Which where could be where we kind of can get stuck. So kind of share a little bit about that.
Yes. We're always taught to forgive others. Um, but I think the most powerful thing you can forgive the person is yourself. I had to walk through that process, and that's a very difficult process because first you have to acknowledge your faults. You have to acknowledge that you did make some mistakes, right? And we don't want
Mm.
to do that. We do not want to do that. It's always somebody else's fault. So when you acknowledge those faults, and it's painful sometimes,
Mm.
you know, me being a single mother, there were some things I missed, because they did not have their fathers in their lives. I had to be mom and dad.
Mm.
So they missed a lot of that intimacy from mama, right?
Mm.
Because I was working two jobs. I was out. Listen, I was more boom, 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 boom. So
Mm.
they missed a lot of that.
Mm.
I didn't want to accept that because I'm like, I was a good mama, which I was. I was a
Right.
very good mama.
Right.
But there were areas that I just didn't want to deal with.
Mm.
So I couldn't forgive myself because I wasn't acknowledging the things that I did. So when I was able to say, you know what, I did the best job I could
Right.
with the information that I had, with the
Right.
knowledge that I had, with the capacity that I was given, I did good.
Mm.
And did I make some mistakes? I did.
Mm.
You know, did they see me go through some hard things with in relation? They did,
Mm.
you know. And so I had to say, but I'm gonna apply grace to you.
Right.
You know, you're worthy of that forgiveness as well.
Right.
And so when I allowed myself to feel it, just be in that moment and acknowledge it, that's where healing took place for me.
Mm.
And so even though there's still areas, because in angry moments, people still like to boop, this is what you did. They like to kind of bring up that stuff. And I have to take a step back and say, you know what? But I've forgiven myself.
Right.
You know? So those things don't no longer hold me but hostage.
Mm.
I'm not bound by those things, because when you're in that moment of just self-reflection or self-condemnation,
Right.
because we beat ourselves
Mm.
up
Right.
over the things. People don't, I didn't need nobody else to do it. I was doing a good job myself. I didn't need nobody helping me to tell me how horrible I was. I was telling myself that. So when I acknowledge the fact, you know what, girl, you did great. You did great. You was a single mama, girl. You
Mm.
didn't walk away from them babies. You made sure they was taken care of. You made sure they had a
Right.
roof over their head. You made sure, and so I had to say, girl, you did that.
Right.
And then on those areas that I feel bad, God was like, but I carried you through it. Your kids are great.
Mm.
They ain't lacking nothing. They're great citizens in the world.
Mm-hmm.
You know what
Yeah.
I'm saying?
Yeah.
Eh, they're not in any, they're not crazy. They're
Mm.
good. They're good. They
Yeah.
God raised good kids.
Yeah.
You know. And so I had to say, okay, Iva, you're not perfect. You're not perfect. The only perfect one is up above.
Mm-hmm.
We're allowed to make these mistakes, and we cannot beat ourselves up, condemn ourselves, because it keeps us in a stuck space,
Right.
right? We can't move forward when we're holding that. We can forgive everybody else, and we be like, why is stuff still not working out for me?
Mm.
I've forgiven this person and that person and that person. And then when you look in the mirror, you be like, oh, I didn't forgive the one that really needed it most, you
Right.
know? And when you
Mm-hmm.
forgive yourself, you'll just see the freedom that comes along with that, and then
Mm.
you will realize, wow, I was holding my own self hostage that whole time.
Ooh.
I freed everybody else, but I was still bound. Yeah,
Wow.
not anymore. Mm-mm.
Right.
Girl is free. I'm flying now.
Right.
To
That's
God be
a
the
that's a
glory.
powerful word of like, holding yourself bondage, right? And then forgiving yourself and letting yourself out. And that's something that I've recently been processing is, looking back and being like, oh wow, I've actually held myself back from good things, you know.
Yes,
Um, and
yes.
so yeah, that's a good lesson to forgive yourself. And I think we do also talk a lot about forgiving others.
All the
But like
time.
you were saying, it's like, okay, you would still be bounded if we don't forgive ourselves. So that's good.
Yeah.
That's good, Iva. And then now you have a company of yo-yo faith, right? Which is sort of stems from your childhood, and then you forgot about it, and then you get it back, and you talk about it in your book. So talk to us about yo-yo faith, where it came from, where you're going with it in your business.
So Yo-Yo Faith, this is the start of it all. Yo-Yo Faith, and it's you overcoming your obstacles. And God brought that back to me actually in my second marriage. I walked away from my second marriage. I was in a city that I didn't know many people. I disobey God. I didn't allow myself to forgive or heal, and I just went into a situation expecting doom. Right.
Mm.
And so when I found myself leaving that situation, and I was telling God, like, for the first time in my life, like, I don't even have answers for me. I've ministered to so many women. I've helped so many people in my life. But now at the point I'm at my lowest, I don't have answers, or can I go to help? And so God, he reminded me, he was like, yo faith. And he reminded me of something that happened so many years ago that I had forgotten.
Mm.
And he brought back to me when I was at the age of 9. God has always been teaching me faith. So I'm a faith walker. I ignite faith in other people. Like, this is what he created me for. At the age of 9, I wanted these pair of shoes. They were yo-yo shoes, cute little sandals with hole in the heel, honey. Everybody looks them up when I talk about it. I'm like, I just wanted these shoes for school. And so I remember asking my dad about these shoes. He was the only one working at the time. My mom was a stay-at-home mom. It was 8 of us. And so I remember telling him, and I told him about it at the end of the school year, so he would have all summer to prepare and get these shoes for me for the next year. And so I told him about it, my dad, I guess he's trying to figure it out. And all summer long, I was thanking God and praying for these shoes. My grandfather was the pastor at that time, and he was always preaching about faith. For some reason, that is just the thing that I remember him preaching about. And I would just really get that in my spirit. Like at the age of 9, God was just instilling something in me, just pouring, just dropping nuggets in my spirit, knowing that I didn't know that I was going to need that for now.
Right.
And, but he was showing me how powerful he was. So I remember praying for these shoes all summer long, no sandals nowhere.
Mm.
Weekend before school starts, Saturday, now Monday is school, I still don't have these shoes. And I'm looking around like, God, I'm 9 now, and I'm still trying to hold on to what I've been asking God for. And my grandfather was always saying, speak those things that are not as though they are. Faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen. If you can speak to the mountain, tell the mountain to move, the mountain have to obey. And I was like, I'm calling in these shoes. Shoes never showed up. So I'm like, trying to figure things out now. How sometimes when we come to God for something and we don't see that the answer is there, we start trying to help him out. Like,
Mm.
okay, God, well, maybe since you didn't move that way, well, maybe you can move over here. We giving God ideas, like he is the creator of ideas, but we don't know at the moment. We just trying to help God out because it don't seem
Right.
like it's happening. But that's what I did at the age of 9. I was looking around. I was like, well, maybe they could be in this store. That store ended up closing. It was the weekend. Everything closes early in Palestine, Texas. And so I was like, okay, maybe this store have them. That store shut down.
Mm.
Saturday is gone. Now it's Sunday. Sunday morning service, everything closed in Palestine except for Kroger, I think, and Buddy's. So 2 grocery stores sometimes carry little jelly sandals. And I was like, well, maybe one of those stores have them. Well, come to find out, none of those stores had the yo-yo shoes. And so service is over. It's night. We had 2 services on Sunday. I go home from the first service. My siblings now looking at me crazy because they like, I've definitely done flipped the coop. She's walking around saying, thank you, God, for my yo-yos and no-yos. Yo-yos are nowhere to be found.
Mm.
But how many know that it's God? He has a way of like preparing a table before you in the
Right.
presence of your naysayers.
Mm.
Ain't he all right? So I go home and, we go back to church and it's night. I don't see the yo-yos. It's time for us to go home. Monday is school. Mom is getting ready to press our hair, and it's my turn now. It's late. It's like 11 something at night,
Mm.
and mom is sitting me down, and she's starting to press my hair, and tears are starting to fall down my face, and she looks and sees that I'm crying, and she tries to console me because everybody knows that I've been thanking God for these yo-yos all summer long. I didn't start the day
Right.
before. I've been thanking all summer long. Now
Right.
the next day is the school day. It's the first day of school, and my mother's trying to console me, and she's like, Iva, sometimes God just don't answer us in the way that we think He should. And
Mm.
so with tears running down my face, I was still like, no, ma'am, mama. I was like, but I just thank God for my yo-yos with tears flowing down my face. I was yet thanking God for something that I didn't see, but I believed Him to do it for me.
Mm.
So even at the last hour, I was yet thanking God. And so I remember heading upstairs to go to bed, to wake up in the morning for first day of school.
Mm.
And I get to this up the stair and I hear a knock at that door. And it was a lady at the door with a trash bag in her hand. And she said, I'm so sorry for coming by so late. She said, but I feel led to bring this bag.
Mm.
Maybe your children can use what I have in this bag.
Mm.
And I tell you, when I saw that bag, I ran down them stairs, honey. I grabbed that bag and I dumped that bag in the middle of that living room floor. Hallelujah. And at the bottom of that trash bag was my prayer.
Mm.
It came. Those yo-yos was at the bottom of that trash bag.
Mm.
And God was showing me in that moment that I forgot all about. It
Right.
doesn't matter when you come to God. He said, first, you must first believe that I am.
Mm.
Okay. And you must believe that I'm a rewarder of them who diligently seek me.
Mm.
And so even though I was 9 years old, I just believed that there was a God.
Yeah.
Only that I believed that there was a God. I believed that there was a God who answered Iva.
Mm.
I believe that there was a God big enough and strong enough that he could come and answer Iva's little bitty 9-year-old prayer.
Right.
I wasn't too small for him to look over.
Mm.
My prayers compelled that woman to come. My
Yeah.
faith, it drew her. God
Mm.
said, he will not make us ashamed. He said, if you call on the name of the Lord, I will not have you be made shame.
Right. Right.
And I tell you, those shoes were my perfect size. And
Mm.
that was so cute. He said, not only because your faith pleased me so much, I'm gonna bless you with these clothes too, that's your perfect size. I was so cute that school year, girl. I had my yo-yo shoes. I
Yes.
had my yo-yo shoes, my cute little dresses. Like, God did that for me. And
Right.
so he brought all of that back
Mm.
in my 40s.
Mm.
He reminded me, he said, I'm the same God. I have never changed,
Mm.
nor have I left you.
Right.
So in that moment where you're feeling like you by yourself and there's no hope, God is saying, I'm big enough to answer your prayer as well. I haven't forgotten. But sometimes he have to try our faith.
Yeah.
We want to trust God, but can God trust us?
Mm.
Can God trust us to believe him like we say we do?
Right. Right.
And your faith is gonna be tried all the way to that 11th hour sometimes. But
Right.
what happens, what I learned is with saints, we give up
Mm.
midstream. And I often think
Mm.
when my siblings started looking at me crazy, when it seemed like there was no hope, no answer, nowhere around, all the stores are closed. If
Right.
I would have given up at that moment, would those yo-yo shoes would have come to my place?
Mm.
No, no. If I would have given up at 7 o'clock, I wouldn't have saw those yo-yos at 11:47 p.m.
Mm.
I wouldn't have saw them. So my faith had to please God,
Right.
you know, and that's all he's waiting for. Even in that moment, he was showing me, Iva, it's your faith.
Mm.
It's your faith. It's the try. He said that the trying of your faith, it worketh patience.
Right.
So not on, when we believe God, when we ask God, we have to have the patience to wait on it.
Mm.
Not give up so quick when it don't seem like it's coming in the time frame that we think, with our little human minds, the
Right.
time frame we think it should come. And so from there, it just builds so much more strength and faith that I said, you know what? I'm going after my dreams.
Yeah.
I'm going after it. My kids are grown. I got one more child left. She's going to graduate. I'm going after those things that I know that God had placed inside of me as a little girl.
Mm.
So I did my CD. I started traveling and sharing the word. I got my mojo back.
Yeah.
And I've been running ever since. And that was that was years ago. I'm almost 50 now. That was But I've been running ever since, and I haven't looked back. And I just see that when we move, God moves.
Mm.
We waiting on God to make the first step. He's not.
Mm.
He's gonna place a seed there. That's the step. But what are you
Right.
gonna do with that seed that's inside of you? Are you gonna let it lay dormant because you don't see God moving? Or are you gonna take action so God can back you up?
Ooh. Right.
So he's just waiting on us. So that's where yo-yo faith. I mean, I have yo-yo faith empowerment group. I'm an empowerment coach.
Hmm.
I have clients. God has blessed me with clients that I'm seeing different. I'm just excited about what God is doing in their lives, and I can see where they're going because I work with women who are stuck, who have
Mm.
been through the things that I've been through. Some of them are still there, and that's my job to pull them out. And I have a boot camp, is what I call it. It's an 8-week boot camp. I've actually moved it up to 12 weeks.
Nice.
And it's to get you started. It's to get you doing those things that you know that God had placed in your heart to do. And you're
Mm.
just stuck because of whatever reason. Either woe is me, or I'm not worthy, or I don't feel I'm qualified. God
Right.
knocks all that. Excuses died on the cross when Jesus died. They went,
Mm.
they gone. No more
Right.
excuses. And so God has just allowed me to be that instrument to help women get to the next level in their lives. And I'm so excited about it. You know, I do motivational speaking. I've worked, my second CD is done. I'll be doing more songs. I'll be creating more music. Hey, I'm just living life to the fullest. I'm excited about this journey, and I'll probably do this till I'm about 90. I may retire
Yes.
about 90.
Yes.
But until then, I'm gonna work, work, work.
Yes. And I just love too, like how that one story, right? All summer long, you had this faith. And it's really just like played out in your whole life, right? So again, trusting the process, right?
Yeah,
And then because of that, you're now able to help so many women, like you're saying, right? To kind of overcome and being unstuck and moving forward. And so you have a CD that you did to kind of accompany this book. And then you are also have a journal out now as well to accompany the book.
yeah,
And then there's a free gift where you buy the book and then you get to have a meeting with you to see if
yeah.
you're a
Yeah.
right fit for your program. So kind of talk about what you have that's accompanying with your book.
Yeah, so I have a free, it's a one-on-one session. It's a faith and strategy session. I'm going to give you an hour of me, an
Mm.
hour of my time. God has blessed me to have just great, deep intuition when it comes to people's lives. And, my grandfather used to call me I girl when I was growing up, and I thought it was cute. And so I made a little rap about it and everything. I'm like, my name is I girl. I was really, and so in my 30s, I never forget, I went and asked my grandfather, I said, Papa, I said, why do you call me I girl? And he's like, because you're a seer.
Mm.
Because you're a seer. And he was a prophet. And so everybody knows Prophet Jones. But when he told me that, it just brought a whole new revelation because I've always had that gift. And I just never shared it or nothing like that. But it's just amazing how now God has allowed me to utilize that gift that he's always had inside of me. And I can just see, and I know just where to pull. I just know, he just gifted me in this area to be able to help other women. So your journey is not for naught. Ever. Don't ever think that it is. God will use it to his glory, that he may be glorified. And I always say, I want to reach people right where they are. You
Mm.
know, everybody's not going to come to me as a Christian. That is, I just want to love you where you are.
Yeah.
I don't want to see anybody stuck. I don't want to see anybody lost behind, discouraged, depressed. Like, this is a life worth living.
Mm.
We're
Yes.
all given this same opportunity when we wake up in the morning, you know. And I always tell my clients, say, this is a day that the Lord has made for me.
Yeah.
I'm going to rejoice and be glad in this day. What can I do in this day to glorify God? Because this is the day he created for me.
Right.
It's my day. So
Yeah.
what am I going to do in this day?
Love it.
Right? And
Mm-hmm.
so it just changes the whole perspective when you personalize it and make it because it is about you. He's a big God. He don't put us all in one bundle. He know how to love you right where you are. He know how to love you right where you are, right? And so he
Mm.
places people like me and others around to just to meet those people. And I always say, when the student is ready, the teacher shows up. And so I just finished. We just did a challenge just the other week. Finished it up. I have clients from that challenge, and they're ready. They're like, I'm ready. I'm ready. So they were
Yeah.
ready. That's why I showed up with the challenge, because
Right.
they were ready, and they jumped on board, and they was like, hey, because they're like, I'm tired of this place. I know God has placed me to do, I know God called me to do great things. I just don't know where to start.
Mm.
I've allowed other stuff to hold me back. Well, baby, you got the right one here. Come on.
Yes.
I'm like, put your gloves on, put your bootstraps up, because we going to work. And that's why I love, I would probably never change it from boot camp, because that's what it is. It's to
Mm-hmm.
change your mind, body, and soul. Yeah, it gets you going on the right, in the right direction. But yeah, you'll get that one-on-one call. And even if you don't, say, I'm not, this is not what I want, but in that hour, you're going to gain so much strength and wisdom, and
Absolutely.
and a little bit of faith. That's what I do. I ignite that faith that's inside you. So hopefully, prayerfully, that gets you still going to the next level. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Wow, Iva, this has been a powerful hour, So anybody watching and you're like, man, I want more of Iva, buy her book today. We're gonna put the link in the comments. And then yeah, you get your own little time with Iva too. Now, people who are, hearing your story, they have a powerful story as well, right? What would you say to encourage them to, be authentic, be open to share and write their story?
You know what? And I'm actually talking to people now and just and letting them know that their story is so important. You know, the things that you've experienced in life is very important. You know, your voice needs to be heard. This is a world we're in now. It's a hurting world, and it's a world they're tired of the facade. They want to see realness. They want to talk to people who've actually gone through some stuff and has overcome it,
Yeah.
right? They don't want to see the people walking around in masks anymore. You
Mm,
know, let me hear I can make it from somebody who's really making it.
right.
Not from somebody who's saying that they make it and they still bound when they go home. They're tired of
Mm,
it. So God is raising up a people who are bold now. And,
powerful.
and, and it's something about the word. It's like when God's hand is on you, you tend to go through the worst stuff, don't you? You're like, "Huh? What in the world?" But God uses those things for his glory. The
Mm,
enemy uses it to destroy you.
mm,
And you can allow it to destroy you if you stay in that condemned state. But
right.
God said, I use it to make my name great.
Wow.
So people can see the power of my might, not our might,
Yeah.
his might.
Yeah.
And it compels them in.
Mm,
So you're sitting on someone else's deliverance.
right.
You're sitting
Ooh.
on someone else's healing
Mm-hmm.
because they're waiting to hear your story.
Right.
And I refuse to have any blood on my hands.
Mm,
Someone could be at their wits' end. They feel, and people are taking their lives every day. Preachers are
right.
taking their lives. Like
Yeah.
this is not a plaything.
Right.
When someone could have just heard your story and it would have made the
Mm,
difference.
true.
So what are you waiting on? Get out there and share your story. It's very important for the world.
I love it. Thank you. Thank you, Iva. Let us know where people can follow you, and your next steps and any last words you have.
Ooh, yeah. My last words would be don't give up. It's real simple.
Mm.
It's real simple. And I say this to everybody when they ask that. Don't give up. Fall, honey, I got bruises on my knees from falling so much. You're falling, you get back up.
Mm.
But the secret is don't stay down, just get up
Yeah.
and keep going.
Oh, good.
That is the secret
Mm.
of everything that we go through in this life. Because if you quit, I say when I die, when I'm on my deathbed, I don't want to have a moment of regret.
Mm.
I wish I did. I should have, but I allowed. Oh
Mm.
no. And so many people are in their graves right now. They died with regret.
Mm.
They didn't go after their dreams. They didn't go after their goals. They allowed people to stop them. And it's like, why? We're all mere humans.
Right.
God have placed something in all of us. But don't let it stop you. You better get out there and get it. You better get out there and get it. So don't quit. Don't give up. That's the secret.
Mm.
And you can find me. I'm on Instagram. I'm on every platform. Iva Pace Music. Iva Pace Music. My email is ivapacemusic@gmail.com. My website is www.ivapacemusic.com. My Instagram is Iva Pace Music. So it's so simple. You just key it in, you should be able to find me. um,
Perfect.
I have a Calendly link also. It's Iva Pace Music. And yeah, I look forward to connecting just with everyone. It's not exempt, I'm men, women, it's not exclusive only to women. There are men that are in the same situations. They're just more reluctant to reach out for help as women are.
Mm.
But absolutely, I work with men as well as the women. So,
Ah, wow. This has been so great. I love you so much, Iva. Thanks for being with us. And again, I'm Star
yeah.
Lutsis with Aligning Purpose Publishing. And we are going to put all of Iva's links in the comments here. Yes, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks again, Iva.
All right. Thank you.